Mark chapter 10. We'll be looking at verses 46 through 42 of Mark chapter 10. I'll start at verse 46. And it says, "And they," this is speaking of Jesus and the disciples, "they reached Jericho. And as Jesus and his disciples left town, a large crowd followed him, and a blind beggar named Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, was sitting beside the road." So it gives us the context there in this first verse right here that we're looking at. And here's what we see. This was pretty much a day like any other day. It could have been a day just like today. Jesus is walking, he's talking, and at least the way I imagine Jesus, I'm sure he was laughing with the 12, with his guys. As together they're going and they're just evangelizing the town. That's what they're doing. They're sharing the message, the gospel message of who Christ is and of the Messiah and of salvation. They're just letting people know the truth. And as he does this, a large crowd begins to gather around Jesus, and they hear his awe-inspiring words, his powerful words. He's just teaching them. And pretty soon they just all sit around and they're like, man, right? We've read in other places where he teaches like no one else with such power, with such authority. Who is this guy? But they're all there. They're all listening to Jesus teach. Now, some of them that were there, I'm sure were critics. I wouldn't have used that word, that phrase, that clause. They were there. And then there were others that were just skeptics. There's no way that could be true. And there was also some that were there that were sincerely seeking the Messiah. It was a varied crowd. There was a lot of different kind of people in there. And they're all listening for different reasons, but they're listening. I remember, you can't forget about that blind beggar who's sitting in the sun. He's on the side of a dusty road, and he's hoping that somebody will just pass by, look at him with pity, and that he'll hear something clank in his little cup, in the bowl, or maybe he'll feel it fall on his gown. There's just drop some charity there. That's a lot like, I guess, Sundays at church. And what I mean by that is you come to church on Sunday and the preacher's preaching. That's what he does. The teachers, they're teaching. That's what they're supposed to be doing. And the worship team, they're worshiping. Everybody's doing their part. It's fine. And there's a crowd around from all over town that comes to hear this guy share whatever his convictions are. And they're listening, and some are critical of the message, some are skeptical of the claims and the assertions, and others are there because they're really sincerely searching and seeking something. Is this God thing real? Is it true? I'm wondering, I'm curious, I want to know. So they're there. And then in the midst of all of that, almost invisible, there's someone that's sitting there. Even though they're surrounded, they're sitting there alone, hoping to hear something that will bring them comfort or some kind of relief from what they perceive to be an ugly hand that life has given to them. And they're just there, listening. And life just goes on. And in verse 47 it says, "And when Bartimaeus heard that Jesus of Nazareth was nearby, he began to shout, 'Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me.' 'Be quiet,' many of the people yelled at him. But he only shouted louder, 'Son of David, have mercy on me.'" I like verse 47 because it says when he heard that Jesus was nearby, Bartimaeus just goes for broke. They're talking. They're the little chatter. All of a sudden they're going, "Hey, I heard Jesus was around here. Jesus is around here. Jesus." And he goes, "Jesus? Around here?" And I remember, they can't see. He's just hearing the buzz. And I love this about Bartimaeus, is he didn't care that the scene that he was about to make would to many there in that group seem uncivilized, rude, or even desperate. Didn't matter to him. He heard Jesus was around there. He's around there. He's around here, so he's listening, and he waits, and he looks. And what he does is he just starts yelling at the top of his lungs. He just starts to yell out, Jesus! Jesus! Hey, Jesus! Descendant of the great King David. Jesus! Give me what I don't deserve. That's what, have mercy on me. Give me what I don't deserve, oh Son of the great King. You, listen, hear me. Hey, Jesus! And that's what he's doing. That's how he's crying. That's just coming out from the depths of his soul. Folks, there comes a time in the life of every person that Jesus passes by our lives. Those moments that we find ourselves alone. That no one else really understands. That we're just hoping that somebody will go by and give us a smile or give us just a nod or a pat, that we'll feel loved, that we'll feel accepted, that we'll feel just that we have some kind of worth. And it's that moment when Jesus passes by that person, maybe you, needs to make a choice. You have to ask yourself, do I worry about what the folks around me are going to say and risk really staying miserable in the state that I'm in? Or do I call out to God? What do I do? Jesus is going by. I know it's him. I've heard all these things about him. I remember as a kid in Sunday school hearing this story or that story or the songs, or I bumped the radio and then Caleb is on and I'm hearing these things and now he's passing by and he's talking to my heart. What am I going to do with this, with that Jesus, with this moment? Do I ignore it? Am I embarrassed? Am I ashamed? Am I scared? Bart wisely screamed out at the top of his voice to the only one who could do anything with his situation. And that one was Jesus. See, the people all around him, they couldn't do anything for him. The best they could do was drop a coin in his cup. But they couldn't change the issue that was really troubling him. I couldn't see. So do you call out to Jesus with your impossible situation, or are you more worried about public opinion? There's a lot of people today that are sitting in darkness, in blindness, in pain, in shame, in anguish, and whatever they're in, because they're too embarrassed or they're too proud, really, to call out, to make a scene because of what others might say. All the while knowing that those others around them in reality can do nothing for them, can in no way change or better their situation. Not really. Verse 48. Be quiet, many of the people yelled at him, but he only shouted louder. Son of David, have mercy on me. Be quiet. Son of David, have mercy on me. Stop it, Bart. Jesus! And he just goes, man. Right? My grandkids do that. Stop. Ah! It's like, be quiet. We're in a store or we're whatever. And come out. Stop. And then they call me Rhino. Rhino! Okay, I'm right here. And then louder and louder. And then people look at me. Like, what? My grandkids. The religious folks immediately yelled at him. Immediately. They tried to shut him up. He calls to Jesus. They go, stop! Stop it! It's not right. Right? This is church. How dare you cry? Lift your hands. Pray. Call out to God. Believe that he's going to hear you. How dare you? That's not how you behave in church, really? That's how we should be behaving in church. But they're trying to shut him up, and he's like, it ain't going to happen. And he just starts to yell. What Bart is basically saying, what he's basically saying is, look, I know I don't deserve anything from God. And Jesus, you definitely know I don't deserve anything from God. But please, Jesus, will you help me? I know me. You really know me, but I need help. Nobody else can help me. Nobody else understands, not like you do, Jesus. Will you help me? And that's where Bartimaeus finds himself. And folks, when you and I, when we call out to Jesus in the midst of our impossibilities, we shouldn't be surprised, and it hurts to say this, but we shouldn't be surprised when the religious, prim and proper, the pew warmers try and shut you down. Because there's people like that. I remember hearing a story of an individual who went golfing with Billy Graham. And they finished the golf game. And they asked this man, how was it golfing with Billy Graham? And the guy says, I hated it. Well, why? I hated it, he says. Well, what did he do? Nothing. What did he say? Nothing really. Was he rude? No, it was very pleasant. He says, then why did you hate it? He says, I felt so guilty next to this guy. He was just so nice, so, right? And a lot of times when we as Christians that are just faking it, when somebody next to us or around us starts to raise their hands like we used to, or starts to pray with faith like we used to have, when they open their Bible and actually believe that what it says is true 100% without any equivocation or doubt, it bugs us. We get convicted and we're like, stop. We know it's true, it's the Bible. But we don't live like it. And when they do it, it takes us out of our comfort zone. I hope that when we hear the sermon or in the midst of worship or in teaching that we get convicted, that I get convicted, and that it takes me out of my comfort zone. I don't want to leave here like I came in. I can always get better, but only the Lord can do that. But again, because of our pride, when somebody starts to raise the hand or a tear comes down or they sing with all of their heart, have you ever been next to that person? They sing with all of their heart, but they are so off key. And we're like, oh. The lady I grew up with, she was tiny in Manachui. And this lady would sing. And Adam will tell you, I am not making these up. She would hit this note that nobody but God understood. But it was all of her heart. And as I grew up, the way God convicted my heart is that she's singing to me with all of her heart. You're worried about what they think. She's focused on pleasing me, on worshiping me. Fix your perspective, young man. And that's what happens. Bart starts to call out, they get convicted, and then they try to shut him up. My counsel to you is don't shut up, get louder. Why? Why should I keep getting louder, Anthony? That doesn't make any sense. They're going to look at me weird. They're going to hate me. They're going to push me out. They're going to try and make me sit, right by the door or way in the corner where the sound's bad, or where they're going to put me by the bathroom, something. Why should I keep calling out? Why should I? Why? Well, the rest of this chapter, verses 49 down, it says in 49, when Jesus heard him, underline that. If you got a Bible, the person next to you, circle it in their Bible. When Jesus heard him, Jesus stopped and he said, tell him to come here. So they called the blind man. Cheer up, they said. Come on, he's calling you. Oh my gosh, I so hate these people right now. Let me explain why. You see, first of all, when Jesus hears you, and he's going to hear you, he's going to stop whatever he's doing. And he's going to give you his undivided attention. That's just Jesus. You ever see that happen in I see it in new parents a lot. The baby coos and, oh, immediately, right? Grandparents, oh. My mom and dad, the worst. Oh, look, whatever the baby, oh. Right? I'm like, they need to be changed, Dad. Oh, it's so cute, but you changing me. Oh, that's your son. But, oh, it's cute, right? But they notice all of that. That's just what happens. And that's the Lord. You make a noise, you make a sound, you cry out. He hears, he listens, he stops whatever he's doing, and he gives you your undivided attention. I love that. And the way I imagine it is in the midst of galaxies and universes and all of this that he is maintaining and creating. A little whimper or a cry for me. And all that keeps going, but he's focused on me. What do you need, son? Amen. What's wrong? What hurts? Who doesn't like you? Huh? I love that saying that somebody said, I believe that if God had a refrigerator, that there would be a magnet with our face on it. He loves us. We're that special to him. Don't worry about what the other people say. Remember I said that people bother me right here? It's because people are real fickle. We are. We really are. You see, the moment that they realized that Jesus was calling out for Bart, they all became Bart's buddies. We are Team Bart. Bart, he's calling you. Right? He's calling you, bro. Come on. How cool is that? Jesus is calling you. Go. And you know what? Let me help you out. Let me get you by the arm, Bart. Let me get you up there. Come on, and when we get there, you'll introduce me, right? I mean, I'm helping you. We're buddies now. You were just telling him to shut up. But the moment they know that he got the attention of Jesus, their attitude changed. People are like that. But here's the thing. We still got to love them. The Lord tells us to love one another. So sometimes in the church, there's people that are going to treat you pretty bad. And the Lord says, love them. Why? John 13, 34, 35, right there says, by this they will know you are my disciples, by your love one for another. Fine. You might say that I yell too loud. You might say that my beliefs are too radical because I think that he can still heal and forgive and restore. And okay, that's fine. You might think that. And then when God does it, you might be like, oh, that's so cool. Tell me more. My response should be, of course, come on, sit down, let's talk. That's how we should respond to that. That love should be there no matter what. Verse 50, it says, Bartimaeus threw aside his coat, he jumped up and he came to Jesus. Why did he throw aside his coat? I don't know. I've heard different stories. I haven't been able to get the facts behind it. Some people say that blind individuals had a colored cloak or robe on, and it'll let everybody else know that, hey, it's a blind guy, so, give him some room. So it was for his advantage, and theirs also, so that they would get out of his way and he'd fall. All I know is that he did it. And I got to thinking, if I had that on me, and he called me, and I jumped up, I wouldn't want to fall. So I'm like, I'm not going to let anything get in the way between me getting to him. So he just threw it off. And I think I can validate that point, at least that way of thinking, of not letting anything impede me getting to Jesus with 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 4 and 5, where it says, no one serving as a soldier gets entangled in civilian affairs, but rather he tries to please his commanding officer. And similarly, anyone who competes as an athlete does not receive the victor's crown except by competing according to the rules. And that's 2 Timothy 2, 4 through 5. When Jesus calls you, get up and go. And don't let anything get in the way or impede your progress to get to Him. When the kids were little, they were, in their rooms and at home, and I would always, I got to make sure I can get to them if something ever happens. So that would be my way to get them to clean their room. Guys, if something happens at night and I have to come in and get you, and I step on toys and stuff, I'm going to fall. I won't be able to help you, and then something will happen to me, and what's going to happen to you? So they were like, and believe me, they were not perfect, my sons. All they did was make a trail right in the middle. And say, okay, well, Dad, go through here. Okay, don't go left or right. Okay. But they understood. But the idea was, I wanted nothing to impede my progress to get to them. The same thing, when the Lord is speaking to you, to your heart, to do something, to change something, to add something, just whatever it is, get anything and everything else that could possibly get in the way and entangle you, get it out of the way. Tina, my wife, sometimes on dresses, because guys don't have this, I don't think you guys do, like those little rubber straps that are on dresses so they can hang them, right? And sometimes they're like, you can see them, and she's like, honey, get that. I'm like, pocket knife / gone. No, that's not how but I get out of the way because it gets caught in something, or, right? The other day at work, I remember seeing somebody, she tried to take off her sweater, took it off, pulled it up, and it hit her beret, got in her hair, so now the thing is stuck halfway over her head. She's got one eyeball hanging out, the thing's pulling her hair. I laugh, but it's like, hey, there was too much in the way to me to get done what I needed to get done. Whatever you need to do to get right with the Lord, to be in His will, do it. And get everything else that's in the way out of the way. That's all. Revelations 3:20. That's that In-N-Out Burger verse, right? Hey. It says, here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person and them with me. That's His invitation. He's like, I'm here, I'm knocking, just come on. So whatever's in the way, move it. And in verse 51, Jesus says, imagine that you're Bart, okay? And this is what you hear. What do you want me to do for you? Jesus asked. My rabbi, the blind man said, I want to see. Folks, don't limit your requests of your God. So often we feel like, I'm not worthy to ask that. He just asked you, what do you want? Can I just kind of see kind of fuzzy? No, what do you? I want to see. Okay. I love this about Bart because he didn't care who heard. He didn't. What do you want? I want to see. It was just that simple. It didn't matter what anybody else around him thought. He didn't care what they would think. He just knew that Jesus had spoke to him and said, what can I do for you? And something inside of him told him, you know Jesus can heal you. You know He can change this whole thing right now in an instant. Ask Him to heal you. So He does. He just goes for it. But I love how He starts with the comment with, my rabbi. Not, hey, great teacher, wonderful prophet, renowned, presenter of the message. No, my rabbi. You, my teacher, the one that I'm committing my life to, you. I want to see. That's all. I just want to see. You know, how many of us are in situations where Jesus, if he was to come up to you and say, what impossible thing can I do for you? Let's just say that nobody else could hear. What would you ask for? What would you ask for? I wrote some things down here, and maybe nobody else knows that you've got something going on physically. Would you ask for healing? Maybe things are bad at work. You're like, I need a job, Lord. Things are okay. Maybe you're just lonely and you're like, I'd like a spouse, Lord. Or maybe your marriage is falling apart. Things that other people look at and think, you're great, you're doing fine, but you know inside it's broken. Something needs to fix this. And only God can do that. Or maybe it's forgiveness. We're just bitter, but if people know I had to ask for that, they're going to know that I just really don't want to go through, right? Or maybe you're one of those people who's been coming to church forever, but you've never accepted Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior. Maybe salvation is what you need. Whatever it is, Jesus is more than able and capable of doing it. Whatever it is, the key is that we have to ask in faith. And by asking in faith, what that means is that you trust his answer because you know that it will be the best answer. And when we ask in faith, it means that even if we don't like the answer, we know it's the best answer and we'll accept it. 52. And Jesus said to him, "Go, for your faith has healed you." And instantly the man could see, and he followed Jesus down the road. I see that the ending of the old, like an old Disney movie when they were still good. And, they'd walk down the road and you would just have Jesus kind of walking, kicking a rock, and then Bart going, "Hey, I saw that." And he kicks it back. And, and they're just having this. And the guy's in the back going, "Can you believe that? Here we are thinking everything's going to be fine. We were going to stop by the pita place. We went, we got some stuff, and then I got a, chata over there, and it was cool. And then we kept going, and then he talks to this guy, and he says, "Yeah, and I want to see it." And then Jesus is okay, and then he's healed, and this is great, man. And they're just having this conversation, walking down the road, and then just, right, it just fades. In credits, it says God, right? Jesus says to him, "Bart, I, Jesus, the object of your faith, I've healed you. I've healed you." Now, the same way that he could instantly see, you and I, we instantly see changes in our lives because of Jesus when we give those things to him. It's an amazing thing to see happen. You pray with somebody who's, beats up his wife, and next thing you know, he just starts to hug, and "I love you." And you're like, what? There's this old gospel western song. It talks about that man doesn't live here anymore, about how he used to come home and the kids would run and hide and he would hit his wife, and then he told his kids, he says, "That man doesn't live here anymore." And that the changes that God brings about in a life are amazing. And they're instantaneous. And people freak out when they see them. You remember what it talks about, the Gadarene demoniac? Right? He'd run around, beat himself up, rip off the chains, and run around naked. The next thing you know, they walked into a house, and there is Jesus sitting down with this guy who's fully dressed and in his right mind. And they were like, whoa. That's how just awesome God is. He can change any situation in any heart in an instant because he's God. I don't know what's going on in your life, and it's really none of my business. But what I want to tell you today is if there's something that's impossible, something that you feel has no resolution or solution, I'm here to tell you that Jesus is the answer.
Amen.
Turn it over to him. Trust him with it. And watch him transform whatever it is into something beautiful that will honor him. Amen?